Have you ever felt it? That piercing, soul-level moment deep within the heart of a conversation when something shifts quietly, sharply, irrevocably. There's no argument, no yelling, no slammed doors or stinging accusations. Instead, there's a sudden, chilling clarity that settles over you like a heavy blanket. In the middle of your own sentence, mid-thought, you catch yourself, and it's like watching your own reflection in a mirror you hadn't realized was there. You hear your voice not loud, not passionate, but careful, measured, calculated. You are walking a verbal tightrope, each word chosen with surgical precision, sculpting your truth into shapes you hope won't offend, won't push too far, won't reveal too much. And in that instant, the weight of the truth crashes down on you. You are not communicating, you are not expressing, you are surviving. You are navigating a minefield, and every sentence is an act of self-preservation. You are performing an intricate, exhausting dance of appeasement. Your every move designed not to be seen or understood, but simply to stay, to remain in the conversation, in the relationship, in their good graces. And when that realization hits, really hits, it's devastating, because you recognize that you're not speaking from power. You're speaking from a desperate hope that you won't be discarded. If these words awaken something deep within you, if your soul feels seen in this moment, know that you are not alone. Declare your presence by writing, "I am reclaiming my silence," in the comments. Like this message if it resonates, subscribe if your spirit is calling for more, and remember, this space, this conversation, is your sanctuary. And so it happens subtly, insidiously. You hear yourself over and over saying, "What I meant was," or "I didn't mean it like that," as if your very truth is a weapon someone else has turned against you, and now you must soften it, dull the blade, make it safe for their consumption. Every explanation, every reworded sentence is another layer of your spirit shaved down, polished into palatability. You catch yourself making yourself smaller, quieter, less vivid. You find your once vibrant feelings diluted to shadows, your opinions pre-filtered through the lens of, will this make them uncomfortable? Will they misunderstand me? Will they leave? You minimize, you trivialize, you reduce your soul's message to something barely recognizable just so it might be acceptable. And this, you come to realize, is a slow, corrosive form of self-erasure, a gradual dimming of your own light so that others can remain undisturbed in their comfortable darkness. You are not building bridges, you are patching up crumbling facades, terrified that if you stop, the whole structure of connection will collapse. But it's not connection if it demands a sacrifice of your authenticity. Every word you bend, every truth you muffle, is a betrayal of the wild, untamed, unapologetic soul within you, the version of you that your higher self remembers and mourns, waiting patiently for you to reclaim. And when the exhaustion comes, when your body aches and your spirit feels threadbare, remember, this is your sacred alarm bell. It is your soul saying, enough, feel it, honor it. Let it guide you back to yourself. Then, like the first light of dawn after a harrowing night, comes the moment of quiet rebellion. It's not a scream, it's not a breakdown. It's not a dramatic departure or a final, scathing monologue delivered to an unworthy audience. No, it is far more powerful than that. It is a stillness that descends upon you, a profound and unshakable peace, born not from victory, but from surrender to your own soul's truth. One day, you simply feel it deep in your bones, in the marrow of your being. You are done begging for understanding, done pleading for connection, done watering yourself down for people who couldn't begin to comprehend the depths of your oceans. You stop offering your soul as an exhibit in their museum of curiosities, stop presenting your heart as a thesis to be defended. You stop crossing the bridge that only you ever seemed willing to traverse. And you don't do it with bitterness or spite, you do it with love for yourself. In the sacred quiet that follows, you hear the soft, triumphant whisper of your higher self. Welcome home. And thus begins the most beautiful pilgrimage of all, the journey back to the untouched core of your being, to the self you buried beneath layers of translation and apology. This is not rejection, it is a reclamation. I once knew a woman who lived this very journey, a soul so gentle, so luminously soft that the world mistook her kindness for weakness. She was the quiet one, the perpetual peacemaker, the understanding friend, the patient lover. Her life was a symphony of compromise, her voice a soft background hum to the louder, more insistent noises of those around her. She smiled often, But behind that smile was a fortress of unspoken words, a graveyard of swallowed truths. We sat together one crisp autumn afternoon, the air heavy with the scent of fallen leaves and impending change. She stirred her coffee absent-mindedly, her gaze distant. And then, almost to herself, she murmured, "I explain myself so much that I don't even know who I was defending anymore. Was it me? Or was it the version of me they decided to dislike, the version they had invented and pinned on me like a label I couldn't peel off?" Her voice was soft, but her words struck like lightning, a truth so raw, so universally familiar, that it echoed within the chambers of my own unspoken experiences. She had lived her life as a living rebuttal, forever trying to clarify herself in a language no one truly wanted to understand. She told me of the exhausting vigilance that governed her existence. Every word she spoke weighed against the scale of too much or not enough. She feared the label too emotional, a scarlet letter affixed to her heart since she was a child. She dreaded too sensitive, a weapon used to dismiss her depth and empathy. She was terrified of too intense, a judgment cast by those too shallow to navigate the profound currents of her spirit. So she edited herself. With every misunderstanding, every dismissal, she thought, maybe if I explain it better this time. She rewrote herself constantly, a never-ending draft of a manuscript whose final version was always just out of reach. But no matter how she framed her truths, they remained misunderstood, misrepresented, discarded. And then finally, she saw the pattern. No matter how she explained, those determined not to understand her never would. Because understanding her would mean confronting their own discomfort, their own limitations, and many are unwilling to do that. The real her wasn't the problem. Their need to keep her small, manageable, non-threatening, that was the problem. And so she stopped. She stopped replying to baited texts designed to ignite yet another draining debate. She stopped answering calls that left her more empty than fulfilled. She stopped apologizing for her boundaries. She let her no stand as a monument to her self-worth, solid and unadorned. And naturally, as always happens, the people who fed on her self-doubt recoiled. They called her distant, accused her of being cold. They said she had changed. But instead of shrinking, she smiled truly, fully. Because for the first time in her life, she realized they were right. She had changed. Or rather, she had returned to who she always was before she learned to contort herself for acceptance. In the sacred, healing quiet that followed her withdrawal, she rediscovered herself, her desires, her voice, her peace. She didn't have to declare it on social media or write a manifesto. Her change didn't need applause. It was enough that she knew it in her bones. She was free. This is what I want for you, for all of us. To recognize that when someone says, "You've changed," it is often because you've stopped making yourself smaller to fit into the spaces they built for you. You've stopped speaking in circles, stopped cushioning your truths, stopped shrinking your radiance so others wouldn't feel the glare. You've stopped explaining yourself to ears that only ever wanted noise, not music. And in that stopping, you claim the most sacred gift of all, yourself. Your worth is not up for debate. Your truth is not a thesis to defend. Your feelings are not arguments waiting to be won or lost. They simply are, and that is enough. When you stop explaining yourself, you aren't giving up, you are leveling up. You are vibrating on a frequency where explanations are unnecessary because your energy speaks for itself. And those meant for you will feel it, will hear it, will recognize it without you having to spell it out. So let this be your permission slip, your invocation, your reclamation. Let yourself be done. Not bitter, not angry, just done. Done with the performances, the justifications, the apologies for existing as you are. Done with chasing clarity from those who thrive in keeping you confused. Step into your sacred silence and let it echo with the sound of your own becoming. In that silence, you'll find your true voice clear, strong, unyielding. And when you speak again, it won't be to explain, it will be to declare, to state, to radiate. And that, beloved, is the sound of a soul fully returned home. At first, this new silence feels utterly strange, doesn't it? It's like you're doing something terribly wrong just by being still, by not rushing in to manage everyone else's perceptions. A wave of guilt might wash over you, a conditioned response from a lifetime of people-pleasing. You might feel rude, selfish, unkind. The old tapes start playing in your head, the overthinking engine revs up once more. Should I have said something? Maybe if I just clarified that one point. They must think I'm so angry. But then, you catch yourself. You take a deep, grounding breath, and that is when the true, miraculous shift begins. That's the moment of divine alignment, because the silence that once felt so heavy and uncomfortable, so fraught with the potential for rejection, slowly starts to feel like freedom. A vast, expansive, breathtaking freedom. You begin to realize just how incredibly loud your life used to be, not the external noise, but the deafening clamor inside your own head. The constant, exhausting overthinking, the relentless rewinding of conversations, playing them back in your mind, searching for what you could have said differently, better. The imaginary arguments you would finally win 3 days later while you were in the shower, crafting the perfect, witty comeback long after the moment had passed. All of that mental static, gone. You start to notice something astonishing. You have so much more energy now. A wellspring of vibrant, creative, powerful energy that used to be swallowed up by pointless conversations, by trying to fix dynamics that were never broken on your side to begin with. You were trying to heal wounds in others that you did not cause, and in doing so, you were inflicting new ones upon your own spirit. And even more importantly, you start to feel dangerous. Oh, but in the most beautiful, sacred way possible. Not reckless, not cold, but unbothered. A quiet power begins to emanate from your very core. You walk into rooms without shrinking. You hold your energetic space. You say no with a calm finality that requires no further explanation. You leave a situation when it feels misaligned with your spirit, and you don't apologize for your exit. Your departure is not a rejection of them, it is an affirmation of you. And the people who used to so expertly pull your strings, they panic. They don't know this version of you, because they never truly knew how to handle you when you weren't playing their game. They lost their favorite puppet. You took your power back, not by screaming, but by saying nothing at all. That silence, your newfound sanctuary, isn't just quiet. Oh no, it is loud, it is roaring with confidence, it is thundering with the strength of your boundaries. It is vibrating with the pure, unadulterated frequency of your truth. Because when you no longer feel the compulsive need to be understood by everyone, you become untouchable to those who would try to use your own words against you. Their manipulations, their guilt trips, their subtle digs, they have nothing to latch onto anymore. They are throwing stones into a vast, peaceful ocean, and the ripples simply dissolve. Here's the secret part, the truth that no one ever talks about. Sometimes, the reason you keep explaining yourself, the reason you are so desperate for them to get it, is because deep down, you are still trying to prove that you are a good person. Not to them, to you. You're afraid that if you don't provide a detailed explanation for your every thought, feeling, and action, their misunderstanding will somehow become your reality. You're afraid they will misinterpret your silence as selfishness, that they will twist your sacred distance into an act of cruelty. And you cannot bear the thought of being the villain in someone else's story. But here is the ultimate truth, the key that will set you free. You are not responsible for how someone else decides to cast you in the movie playing inside their head. You are not obligated to audition for the role of good person in their life. Just because you stopped auditioning for their approval does not make you a bad person. Let that divine truth sink into every cell of your being. You spent years believing that being clear, soft, reasonable, and endlessly patient would be your spiritual armor, that it would protect you. You thought that if you were just kind enough, forgiving enough, transparent enough, you would finally be safe from judgment, safe from being labeled the problem, safe from the devastating pain of being left. But no matter how many times you clarified your pure intentions, no matter how eloquently you articulated your heart, certain people always found a way to turn your truth into a weapon, to twist your vulnerability into a weakness. And why? Because they were never listening to understand you. They were only listening to control the narrative. And the wildest part of it all, you let them. Not because you were weak, never because you were weak, but because you were conditioned by society, by family, by life itself, to believe that your kindness was only valid if someone else co-signed it. You were taught that your worth was a commodity to be earned through the approval of others. But now, you are waking up. Now, you are seeing how much of your precious identity was built on the shaky foundation of being easy. Easy to love, easy to talk to, easy to forgive, easy to manage. You weren't asking to be heard. You were begging to be accepted. You thought explaining yourself would make you more worthy of that acceptance. But here is the cosmic twist. The day you stop chasing clarity from people who thrive in confusion, you finally realize that the only validation that truly matters is the one that doesn't waver when you are silent. It's the validation that comes from your own higher self. You do not need to be understood to be right. You do not need to explain yourself to be free. You just need to know yourself so deeply, so intimately, that you don't even flinch when someone else doesn't get it. When you finally stop explaining yourself, you realize just how few people ever truly knew you in the first place. And yes, that realization can sting. It's a wild, disorienting experience. You pull back. You stop the constant over-explaining of every choice, every mood, every subtle shift in your energy, and suddenly, some people start treating you like you're the problem. Why? Because now that you are no longer handing out disclaimers with every breath, they are forced to sit with the distorted version of you that they built inside their own heads. And guess what? That version was never, ever about you. It was always about their comfort, their narrative, their desperate need to feel smarter, safer, more in control. You were simply a character they cast to keep their own ego fed, so when you stop performing, they lose their script, they panic. And the silence you thought would bring peace starts to expose just how fragile and fake the connection really was. And yes, that part hurts. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you are finally seeing things with divine clarity, without the noise of constantly justifying your own sacred existence. You start noticing who only liked you when you were easy to read. You start noticing who disappears the moment you stop breaking your own back to be understood. And suddenly, the act of keeping the peace feels less like maturity and more like a profound self-betrayal. But here is the key, the beautiful, sacred key. That ache you feel when you first pull away. That is not loneliness. That is the space your soul needs to come home to itself. It is the sacred emptiness required to detox from a lifetime of people-pleasing to finally hear your own divine voice without editing it for someone else's ears. This isn't you losing people. This is you losing the illusion that those people were ever truly with you. And that realization, while brutal, is also the most potent and powerful kind of freedom there is. You didn't lose your voice, you just stopped wasting it. You started speaking in energy, in boundaries, in presence. You don't have to explain who you are when you fully embody it. And that, my dear soul, is the real glow-up. Not louder, not flashier, but rooted, unshakable, centered. You went from "let me explain" to "watch how I move." And at that point, from that place of authentic power, no one can touch you. Because when you stop explaining yourself, you stop inviting people into the sacred chambers of your heart where they were never meant to sit. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be real. And it is time to let them deal with it.